with the four-leaf clover on my breast, and the green and white upon my chest. It's such a joy for us to see, for they play football the Celtic way, for they play football the Celtic way, for they play football the Celtic way, 'cause they play football the Celtic way.
Love that wee accordion bit at the end. It reminds me of like New Year. Now you get that music playing, that wee accordion at the end. Brilliant.
Aye, it reminds me a wee bit of Billy Connolly for some reason as well. A wee bit of Billy Connolly in there, mate. Brilliant. The war is over. The rebels have won. A few months ago, myself and Andy started this lovely four-leaf Clover podcast, and we were joined by our Paddy and our Jerry. And it's been such a success. Somebody once told us the cream always rises to the top, Andy. And that person was right. How has your week been, sir?
Busy. I've been on Ireland all week, but now on Monday morning, just get back this afternoon. I've not stopped. They certainly don't let you sit about doing hee-haw earlier. I've got you running about the other place. So, been to just about every corner of the Emerald Isle this week. I was up past Paddy's in Derry yesterday. So unfortunately I didn't have time to pop in to see Paddy. Actually, I didn't even bother trying to contact him. Just far too busy with work. But glad to be home, mate. First thing I look for on the Monday is a Friday. That's all I look forward to. That's what's important to me.
Aye, absolutely flying at the minute. Absolutely flying. Jerry, I know you've had a busy week, mate, and you're a wee bit stressed there just before we came on. But how are you feeling now that you're on the best podcast in the land, sir?
Aye, mate, it's always good to catch up on a Friday night with everybody, mate. Just been very busy lately, and obviously been on enjoying myself a few weekends. So this weekend I've got my head round absolutely doing nothing apart from bookies, couch, just doing nothing all weekend. I watch a bit of international just for sake of a football group, mate. But apart from that, I'm doing hee-haw. I'm not moving.
Yeah. Good man.
Chilling all weekend, mate.
You deserve it, mate. You deserve it. Did you watch that France-Spain game the other night, man? Jesus Christ. Aye, you need to go on the highlights. Unbelievable. So it was unbelievable. Lamine Yamal looks pretty good for a deal at Celtic in 6 years' time once his deal runs out at Barcelona.
You say 60 years, Scott?
Probably 60. I'll still take him in 60 years, mate. He's that good. Patrick, how are you doing, sir? And more importantly, how's your dad getting on, sir?
Yeah, we're getting there, Scott. He's recovering slowly but surely. He's getting a wee bit stronger every day, so we're just sort of dealing with him day by day. So, but he's home. He's in his own bed, and he's comfortable at the minute. So he's doing all right. So we're just taking it day by day, Scott.
Good man, good man. Now you'll notice that our beautiful Michelle is missing this evening, so we've got a wee space on the panel available. So we reached out to somebody who has legendary status in the Celtic podcast world, and we've reached out to an old friend of ours. Good evening, Kaiser.
Oh, legend.
How are you doing, sir?
Amazing. Thank you so much for inviting us, lads. Absolute privilege to be in the fastest growing, best podcast on YouTube. Love it.
Absolutely outstanding, mate. Great to see you. We've missed you, my man. We've missed you. We've missed your partner. We've missed the legendary quotes that you come away with as well, mate. So welcome back for one night only for now. And whenever we need you, my good man, I know that the call will be answered. So,
yes, 100%.
Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you have seen it. Bit of a shocker, really, Andy. Disgusting. Former manager Ange Postecoglou, if you haven't already heard, has been sacked by Tottenham. Andy, what is your initial reaction to that?
Disgusted, to be honest with you. They took a perfectly good manager for us, who was absolutely flying at the time, stole him, ruined him, and just flung him away what a piece of shit. Spurs are an absolute calamity of a club. A Premiership club that has got standards higher than what they deserve. They're an absolute basket case. And I think, you know, when you look at overall, they're looking at the league position this season. They finished 5th last season in Angie's first season in the Premiership. 5th for a club that's absolutely nowhere. Haven't they won anything for 17 years? This season, he's been absolutely hammered with injuries. And he took it upon himself to look at the situation and say, well, look, I need to win something here. What's my best road to take to be victorious and lift a trophy? And he figured out it was going to be the Europa League. And he went and he done it and they won it. And there was whispers of him getting the sack after that. And we all seen the footage of fans at that final saying, thanks, Ange, but see you later. And it's like, are you actually having a laugh? You haven't been anywhere or won anything for 17 years. You've won no matter what you think of the Europa League or the Conference League for that matter, it's a European trophy, a competition that you've won. And the first thought after getting it a wee cheer is century to the manager. An absolute joke. An absolute joke of a fan base. An absolute joke of a football club. And I'm telling you something, if these fans, how many times have they had top-class managers in a club been unsuccessful and they've been booed out the door again with the fans? What do the fans want? You know, if anything, they need to look at the person in charge, and it's that Daniel Levy. You know, there's a common denominator here, and it's him. You know, he's a guy who's unworkable. Any manager, I mean, how are they going to attract a top manager at that club is beyond me, because you simply don't get it. Even when you're successful, you get the sack. It's madness. It's madness. And I know a lot of people were saying right after the Europa League final that Ange should have just went, I'm done. See you later. Yeah. He's not going to do that. He's getting a £6 million payout for compensation. You know, so he's not going to walk away for a job when he's got that sitting there. And let's be honest, he's good enough to go to another top job. Whether that's going to be in the Premiership or somewhere else. Maybe it's put him off the Premiership. You know, I don't think there's any chance of him coming back to Celtic. I know Brendan's got another year and we don't know what's going to happen there, but I don't think there's any chance of him coming back to Celtic. I don't think he's that type of guy to go back. He's always looking ahead. But I want to wish him all the very best. I didn't like it when he left Celtic, but I understand now, you know, that was his mindset at that time. He stays maybe 2 or 3 years and he wants to continue to improve himself.
Yeah.
So all I can say is get it up, you Spurs. I hope you get relegated, and all the best to Ange.
Aye, Paddy. I know you're in the crowd that were with him, you know, to walk out after the Europa League final. Just look at the managers they've had since Harry Redknapp, which was the last time they won something. It's incredible, really. You know, I seen somebody put there, Jose Mourinho, Pochettino, Conte. None of them could win anything, mate, at Spurs. And Ange Postecoglou promised them that he would win something. And I think that Andy touched on in the group chat, which I quite liked as well. He had so many injuries this season, mate, right? And he prioritised the Europa League. He went, we're not going to win fuck all in the Premiership. We're not going to do anything. So he prioritised the Europa League, and it paid off for him, mate.
It did, Scott. You know, and how did they repay him? By humiliating him and embarrassing him. It's just disgraceful, to be quite honest. You know, and it just shows again and reinforces an opinion that I've had for a very long time, that the Premier League in England is just absolutely toxic. I understand the money, I understand the draw, but I can't believe how so many top caliber managers seem to think that this is the holy grail of managing when the clubs treat their managers in such a way. You know, football and injuries are part of football. Don't get me wrong, every team gets injuries, but the injuries that Spurs had, particularly in the first sort of few weeks of the season, the first couple of months of the season, were beyond anything I'd ever seen with anybody. They basically lost an entire team to injuries, and some of them were long term. You know, like he lost practically his entire back four including Mickey van de Ven, one of his major signings to try and to fix the problems they had at the back. James Maddison, a player they brought in to try and, improve their middle of the field, and, those were key players and big players for him. And you're exactly right. He realised himself, from probably from maybe before Christmas on, that they weren't going to be in any danger of really challenging for the top 6 or whatever in the league. So he took a run at the FA Cup as well. They knew that there was a chance of that, so he took a run at that. And then he saw himself that that the only trophy he was really realistically going to have a chance of winning was the Europa League. So what was the guy meant to do? What was he meant to do? Was he meant to just say, listen, we'll just write this season off? That's not the kind of a character he is. We saw that when he was in Glasgow. The one thing that Big Ange has, he has the courage of his own convictions, and if he says something, he means it. That's what I liked about him. That's why he was so refreshing. He was a real boon for Scottish football when he came here. The way that he handled the media, he had absolutely no problem. The guy backed himself, and he said on more than one occasion, I may get this wrong at the start, but I'm not changing my philosophy on the game. I won't be changing for anybody, and you will either come on board and stick with me, or you'll get rid of me. But I will not be changing my philosophy. It's worked for me in Japan, it's worked for me in Australia, and he came in at a very, very difficult time for us. Really, really difficult time. And he won five trophies out of the 6 on offer in his first 2 seasons. So I'm just disgusted with Spurs and their supporters. As Andy said that night, even in the stadium, 5-10 minutes after the final whistle had blown, there were 2 guys in particular were just saying, thanks, Ange, but it's time to go. Wow. Just absolutely no clue whatsoever about what that man had just achieved for them and what it took for him to achieve that. He said himself there that he knows himself it's a reward for the hard work. Sometimes the fans don't see that, what goes on behind the scenes. The hard work that the players and the staff at Spurs did and put in, week out, to try and give the supporters something to cheer by the end of the season. And it just beggars belief. It really beggars belief when you see the money that Mikel Arteta has spent at Arsenal, and yet again for another season Arsenal have come up short, and Spurs are sitting there with a Europa League trophy, a European success, first trophy in 17 years. I just don't. It just beggars belief, and I was of that opinion, Scott, that night. I saw those 2 idiots, live on the interview. I was just like, I hope that big man goes in tomorrow morning and sets the UEFA Cup down and says, here, shove it. But he's not that kind of a guy. He just isn't that kind of a man. But listen, it is what it is. I say that's just the world of the English Premiership. When you see the list of managers there, Mauricio Pochettino, Jose Mourinho, Harry Redknapp, the list goes on and on. Guys that couldn't make any kind of an impact on that club. Boys, people like Antonio Conte, who had success at Chelsea. You see the success that Mourinho had. Even Andre Villas-Boas, very, very highly rated manager as well.
As well, who's doing very well at Nottingham Forest, too.
Unbelievable.
Just
yeah, that's what it is. I've said it before about those 2 clubs, Chelsea and Spurs in particular. I don't know that. I don't know what the attraction is when managers take the jobs, but surely they must look at those 2 clubs and think, why would I take myself to them 2 clubs? They just, if a manager doesn't get it right after 6 weeks, or he has poor results over 6 or 8 weeks, you're out. And it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But you know what? Big Ange will walk away with a check for probably around about 6 million in his back pocket. So, and that's the thing. The one thing that he stuck to the entire season long, despite all the flack that he was getting, he wouldn't back down from that. No, I said I win trophies in my second season, and I'll stick to that. And I'll have the courage and my convictions to see it through. And I'm glad that he did. But it's just shameful from Daniel Levy and the rest of the Spurs board.
Yeah, I think the thing, Kaiser, with Ange is he always leaves a job with his dignity intact, and he can certainly leave Spurs with his dignity intact as well. And that £6 million, but I'm sure it's not all about the money. He does what he says, and he says, he does what he says on the tin with Ange.
Mm-hmm.
He calls it as it is, and it's just sad, mate. I think for what he's done, that he's got the bullet. It's mental.
Yeah, absolute folly. Scotty, Tottenham, Levy, their fan base, the diarrhea in this spacesuit, they're an absolute travesty of a football team. I thought the next time they won something, buses would be hovering. They'd need to dust off the old World War II bus and get it out of shelter. But there they are, as you said yourselves. Stop singing Angie's song. Their supporters turn faster than anything I've ever seen in my life. Ange Postecoglou, right, sired by a great man, his father back in Australia, introduced to football, influenced by such legends as Puskas. He had the ability, the coaching knowledge. What he needs is a fan base and the backing of a board. You need to really get behind Ange and go for it all the way. It's 100% commitment. And people always used to say, oh, the big problem is with Ange, he doesn't have a plan B. And I'm like, you don't need a plan B when you do plan A good enough. I would rather be a master of one style than a jack of all styles. So I loved Ange's philosophy. I loved what he was all about. It was
sorry to interrupt you. Just when you talk about changing styles, they actually did in that final. He showed that he could really defend towards the end.
Exactly, Andy. I was going to burst onto that there and go. And Bergamo, how much responsibility for the defensive display. Ange's team was clearly capable of it because we still got a lot of players that Ange left us. He left Celtic in such a position of power. And I can't, the money we're making right now, right? The players we've got, the transfers that it looks like coming in for players like Hatate, Daizen Maeda, going to leave Celtic in an absolute powerhouse position of strength financially. I don't blame him for going to Tottenham, right? First ever Australian manager to be in that top league in the world, or tourist league as I like to call it. But he had to go for that. I went round to Ibrox myself as he came out the main doors, as you have seen, lads, and I shook his hand and I says to him, 10 million a year, 10-year deal, Ange, 100 million buyout. Of course, that buyout will go down by 10 million the more years you stay. But let's build a dynasty. It's something you've never done before. All the stories of Ange and his office in Tottenham, still singing the praises of Celtic support. We absolutely touched his heart, and he touched ours as well. And we liked it. We liked being touched. I loved it. Tottenham, they're about as much use as a barbed wire condom. They're absolutely woeful club. Their management is farcical. But in a league where some managers get sacked directly just for the new manager bounce, Ange Postecoglou took on that entire country, right, legends? And let's not forget, me personally, I believe, Ange Postecoglou at Glasgow Celtic, when Queen Elizabeth passed away and Glasgow Celtic fans laughed and clapped their hands when we hated the royal family, Ange went down south and bared the slings and arrows for the English media, absolutely trying to tear them apart like a pack of jackals. He's 100% correct. Told them to their face, I'll always win something my second season. For a club that's been questioned for a manager of such illustrious names who could not deliver trophies, for them to sack a manager after he's delivered a major honour to their club is absolutely farcical. But look at Ange's CV now, lads. When he first came to Celtic, not a team in Europe would take a chance on him. I watched that interview of him talking about it today. No one would give him a chance. No one would outstretch that hand. Not even clubs in Greece. He was in the running for the AEK Athens job the day before. He didn't get the job on the Thursday, and he got the phone call from Celtic on a Friday. And so begins his whirlwind rise in European football. He now has on his CV, champions of Scotland, all the honours he's won up here. Then he went down south, battled the English, battled the snobbery and their silly attitude, and he won a major European honour. For people who says Big Ange couldn't do it in Europe, I think you need to go and take a long look in the mirror. If Big Ange takes a year out of football and wants to come back to Celtic and Brendan wants to leave, I would be delighted. I'll go up and pick him up at the airport and give him a coke carried down the road.
Well, you never know, Kaiser. You never know. Jerry, the breaking news this evening, mate. I don't know if you even managed to catch it, mate. You've been that busy today, but what's your initial thoughts on Big Ange getting the billet done at Spurs?
Initial thoughts, lads, is I'm not really surprised. I'm not surprised because you know what you're getting when you get in there. Wait, listen, don't let him fool you. He was heavily paid to go down there, right? He left Celtic, fucking left my team, as far as I'm concerned. You know how I feel about this. If Ange comes back tomorrow, I'm Ange daft again. But right at this moment in time, you know what you're getting down to Tottenham. You know what I mean? I just feel as if we're hanging him. I just thought he could have stayed longer. He could have built something incredible at Celtic. He could have stayed longer in my eyes, but it wasn't to be. He jumped away. The first club he came in from, as far as I'm concerned. But on the other hand, when the flip side there, I know we're going about the Paddy's right with the Tottenham chairman and stuff like that, Paddy, but 11 injuries in the first team. Were they all injured? The Celtic players ran through a brick wall for that guy. Do you know what I mean? The Celtic players ran through a brick wall for Ange. The Tottenham players did that for him. Did they? Fuck.
Yeah.
They're all prima donnas down there.
Yeah.
So I know the chairman, I don't know what they expect him to win after 17 years. I can understand. I looked at that and I said to Ange when I seen him the last time walk round Celtic Park, and I said, "You'll never walk round Spurs Park with your family."
No.
And that's what I said to myself. You'll never walk round Spurs. You'll never have this again at Celtic. For me, I know you're still paid well at Celtic, but you can never get managing or playing for Celtic anywhere else. So I know everybody's to make money. I understand that in life, but so that part of my Celtic part of me feels Ange could have stayed a wee bit longer and built something massive. I mean, it could have been, you talk about maybe Jock Stein stuff here.
Yeah.
He could have, but he didn't. And I know he's been shafted badly, understand that, but I just feel as if the players, 11 injuries, I just feel as if some of the players could have fucking got after that and helped him. Do you know? In my eyes, as a football player. But I just feel as if, I'm sorry for him that way, I feel as if he get treated very badly. As Andy says, he should have walked away bang on the final. That night, or that morning, that he should have said, "That's me, bye, I've had enough." Because he wasn't, that's up here, he was respected by everybody. He was respected by the media, the players, the fans, the other fans. He was respected by everybody. How long did he get respected down there? For 6 months? After that, it turned on him. The folk weren't they? So, as I say, lads, you know me, when it comes to Folkley and Celtic, I'm not really interested in them till they come back or whatever. I know he speaks highly of Celtic and that's good of him and that, but he could have stayed and picked a better club. He could have stayed another 2 or 3 seasons and picked a better club. So
Yeah.
he could have scored.
Aye. No, bang on, mate. Bang on, lads. That was brilliant chat there, by the way. Aye, absolutely disgusting. But talking about managers.
Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
I've seen bigger queues in Asda, Andy, than this guy getting welcomed across the city. We touched on it on Wednesday night, so we did, and it wasn't quite confirmed, but it now has been confirmed. Apart from his bird, who I'm sure we all remember, lads. It's pretty underwhelming, Andy, this appointment that they've got in. Good for us. Chris Boyd said it's a fantastic signing for them. What are you making of Russell Martin getting that Rangers job, mate?
Well, Chris Boyd will cheer anybody. You know, he puts absolutely any tactical nous into any kind of comments that he makes. It's just all gibberish. So anything that guy says, do you know what? He loves eating sausage rolls, but I would make him into a sausage roll. Because that's all he's a sausage. He is a sausage. An absolute idiot. Look, this is how many people were interviewing and how many's turned it down, you know. It's getting that job is getting passed about like a trucker's notebook. You know what I mean? Pages all stuck together and that. I'm not touching that. So I'm not surprised. You know that they've come into this windfall of a takeover. Majority shareholders is what they are. You know, so let's not stretch out the whole takeover thing as if they're going to have billions and billions to spend, because it doesn't work like that. It's been quite evident. And that while he was getting announced, that Patrick Stewart had said that, you know, they're going down the Celtic route. That's what they want to do. The only difference with him trying to do that is we're 25 years ahead of him. So, and plus the fact, if they are going down the player trade model, obviously they're going to spend a wee bit of money bringing in a wee bit more talent, but you can't replace a whole team. You can't spend the money to replace a whole team. So they're either going to have to work with who they've got or bring through some youth, or spend it very, very wisely and try and get our model, try and copy our model. That's exactly the street they're going down.
Yeah.
This is a guy who I think is going to be a yes man for them. You know, I don't think he's a man that's going to be challenging them to push them on. They seem quite strong in the way they go about things. Which is, let's be honest, that's what they needed. I think, you know, overall, you look at this season, they beat us a couple of times. So that their problem was beating other teams in Scotland, you know, that their levels were so all over the place. But I think a lot of that was down to the ones above the manager, listening to fans too much, reacting to fans too much, letting fans get too much power when it comes to making decisions. You've got to be strong when you're in that position, and stick to your guns. The old board were had their heart in it more than their mind, you know, and that's why you had so many soft loans. They were losing like 17, 18 million pound a year in losses, which is crazy. How any business can sustain itself, whether it be a football club or no, it's just madness, you know. So I'm still baffled that an organisation, know that it is directly the 49ers. It's obviously the investment arm, which makes up a few people, not just one kind of investor. They're there to make money. They're not doing it out of the love for the club, you know. So you've got to wonder, how are they going to make their money? How are they going to do it? Are they going to do it with this manager? I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. But listen, they've appointed him, so it's up to him to decide if he's big enough to do the job or no. But there's another basket case here club who think that they're talking about winning trebles, and that's us. We're going to win a trophy in Europe now, and it's like, it used to be the hope that kills them, Scotty. It's now the expectation that's going to kill them. Madness, absolute madness. But it's I could believe it when I seen it, but I was rubbing my hands. I was like, here we go. You know, we've had Ancelotti, we've had just because his dad was a famous coach. You know, who else? Mourinho was mentioned. They're going to bring what was the players we're bringing? Modric. We're going to bring Modric, and you know, this is you have a look at this guy's managerial record, and it ain't great. You know, it isn't great. So it doesn't look too good for them. Personally, he might survive Christmas. I don't know. They're working on the basis that Celtic are going to stand still or go backwards while they grow, and that simply isn't going to happen. So we're only going to get better, and this is just a disaster waiting to happen, I think. So I'm looking forward to it. Should be good.
Aye, somebody put in there, Paddy, old Barry will be fizzing. I don't know why they just didn't stick with him if that's the sort of level of manager they're bringing in. I noticed on another podcast, the Daily Ranger podcast, I like to watch that because I like to hear their opinions on things. And they suggested it was an Ange Postecoglou moment for the Rangers here. But the difference is Ange Postecoglou came in a winner. This guy's win record is absolutely hoofing, Paddy.
And that's exactly what it is, Scott. Ange, although, and we didn't try to hide it either, we didn't know who he was. I personally never heard tell of Ange Postecoglou until we saw him being linked with the Celtic job. But once you started doing your homework to see, so you could clearly see what the guy had achieved. So successful in club football in both Japan and Australia, successful with the national side. You know, so you know that's a different. Football's all about winning, and it doesn't matter which country you're winning in. You know, winners are winners, and they bring a winning mentality, you know, and a winning attitude. You know, somebody said there earlier on that Big Ange maybe wasn't popular with the players. I have no doubt that that's the case. You know, but if you talk to Paul Scholes and Nicky Butt and Roy Keane, Alex Ferguson maybe wasn't the most popular coach when he was having all that success at Manchester United, but do you think Ferguson cared about being popular? He wasn't trying to win a popularity contest. He was there to do a job. He was there to win the Champions League. He was there to win the Premier League and keep Manchester United at the top of the tree. You know, so a Big Ange is the same. He's that sort of a character. You know, he wasn't there ever to win a popularity contest, and that became very, very clear earlier on. But you know, as for Russell Martin, you know, I'm a great one for. We've all had our say on it anyway, but I'm a great one for believing that we look after ourselves. You know. Let them tear on, do what they like. You know, just we look after ourselves. We take care of business. And we said it in the middle of the week again that I still maintain that while the man in the Celtic dugout is Brendan Rodgers, Rangers are going to struggle with whoever has their job. It's the man in the Celtic dugouts that's the problem. We have an elite manager, a Premiership class manager, a born winner, a proven winner. The man has won trophies hand over fist in Scotland. He's absolutely dominated Scotland. He's dominated Rangers, and he's just going to keep doing that. If you watch some of them, the podcasts and some of the social media reaction today, you're right, Scott. Quite a lot of them that I saw interviewed, maybe outside Ibrox or wherever, a lot of them were of the opinion that if we had known it was going to be Russell Martin, we would have been quite happy to keep Barry Ferguson. That was coming through loud and clear there. So listen, I said it the other night. I don't know what their plans are, Scott. I have no clue, and I'm not interested in what their plans are, because whatever their plans are, as Andy said, it's going to be a long-term thing. This is never ever going to be a short-term fix for Rangers. There is no short-term fix for them, not because of Celtic. So I have no idea what the plans for the club are. But as I said, we just focus upon ourselves. If we just look at keeping our business ticking over the way we're doing, we're showing them how it should be done. We're showing them absolutely. We're signing players for 1.5 and 2 million, like Matt O'Reilly, and we're flogging them 2.5, 3 years later for close to 30 million. And that's exactly what it is. Our player trading model is there for everybody to see. We just do not allow our players to run down their contracts. If we've got players that are valuable to us, we don't allow them to run down their contracts. We negotiate with them. Happy enough to keep you. If you're not wanting to stay, well then we will reap in the money for you. It's as simple as that. And that's, unfortunately for Celtic, that's where we are as well as a club. That's what we have to do. So as I say, I'm not that interested in it, Scott. I had my say on it the other night, and but the one thing I would do, as I say, I tried my best to turn it around and put myself in the Rangers fans' shoes today. And I still maintain that, if that had been us, surely you need to have a figurehead manager to go along with your takeover. You can't have another. I don't like calling him a rookie manager, but he's a rookie manager when it comes to the Celtic Rangers thing. There's absolutely no doubt about that. That fixture could eat him up and spit him out. So I just, if money's no object to the 49ers or whoever is holding the purse strings, if money's no object, why didn't they go and get Jose Mourinho? He said he would come to Scotland. Why didn't they go and get Sean Dyche, a Premiership manager? Why didn't they go and get, some of the other guys, David Ancelotti? Why didn't they do that? It just, if I had been in their situation, I would have expected some kind of an appointment that would have captured the imagination of the Rangers fans. And I'm sorry, but I just don't think Russell Martin captures the imagination of the Rangers fans. The most of what I can see coming through from social media and from close friends that I've spoken to, they're very, very underwhelmed by the whole thing. Very underwhelmed. So that's my take on it, as I say. But for me, I would much rather that we talk about tonight, then we put it to bed, and we get back to focusing on Celtic, because that's what we need to do. That's the only thing that we can influence. We can't influence what goes on across the river. So for us, we need to just see what happens. Let's get back to doing what we do best. And as Andy and Jerry said the other night, we need to get players in ourselves. We need to start working on our squad for next season and let them get on with it, because they have a massive job there.
Aye, mate, you're bang on. I was expecting a Graham Souness moment, and you can't polish a turd. They've brought this guy in, mate. Mere cannon fodder for Brendan Rodgers. There's nearly 200 people watching the stream this evening. Incredible numbers. If this is your first time watching the Four Leaf Clover podcast, please like, share, subscribe on the YouTube page, and tell your pals. We're absolutely flying at the minute. Kaiser, what was your thoughts, mate? I like to watch Footy Adventures. That's a good wee podcast as well. I like to watch. And he was outside while he was in the building, and he was trying to interview Rangers fans, and he couldn't find any, mate. That's how underwhelming this manager is. They had to open turnstiles to let the fans in for Steven Gerrard. I thought I was going to see you walking past, mate, with your dog or something like that, mate. Up in Govan. There was nobody there.
I had the green smoke ready. I was going to go around and celebrate, but I didn't want to be over presumptuous. Look, sometimes you don't get what you want, but you get what you need. So we need to be mindful of them across the city. The guy looks like he wants to come in and play football. If he plays football against Celtic, then the better calibre of players will always win out. One thing I can tell about him from the look of his wife, he likes two big daddies up front, so Dessers will be staying. The guys, it's an appointment that just screams engineered. They need to build towards something. They're all shouting about 120 million investment, completely forgetting they're under financial fair play rules. And make no mistake about it, it's not a takeover. They've come in as majority shareholders. But see, every time they release equity to Sevco, they will demand shares for that equity. That's the only way it can be done. That's why Dermot Desmond can't just come into Celtic and drop 100 million, even though he's a billionaire, because he would have to have something in exchange for his money. He would have to either buy the players and own their contracts, or he would have to get shares from our PLC, and that's our fans. And I love the fact that Celtic's a PLC. I know Sevco are a PLC right now, but they will be moving to a limited company in due time. The 49ers will be in there and they'll be dragging every last share issue, every last penny out of that support. They will milk them, they will wring them out like SpongeBob for their confetti shares, and then they'll give them a loan when they need that, and they'll bridge the gaps, recall all the shares, and when they reach a level of about 75% of the shares, they will turn that inside out and it will become nothing but a feeder club for Leeds United. That's exactly what it looks like right now. That's the best they can hope for here with a 20 million investment, is to cut some of the chaff and get some young players for down in Leeds sent up here and pay minimum wages and try and make that club look profitable. The one thing that's going to be done with an investment group like this is they're going to want to make money. They're going to ensure the back workings are working right. There will be no more 180 grand on sausage rolls for Morelos. You know what I mean? There'll be no more Just Eat deliveries coming in there. I see them non-stop. It's like a conga line of Just Eat drivers round there. Definitely, but we need to be wary. We need to take an eye and look. Here the wee man. Hey. And our board need to be proactive instead of reactive. Are you going to say hello? Hi.
Hi, wee man.
He just popped in the background of the sad bears there. He's about to get his neb in. I'm so sorry, lads. If he's moved on, I'll deal with the wee man now. Right, this is my son. He's autistic and non-verbal. 12 years old, so whenever he comes run, I need to go running for him. Jump onto Jerry, right, and I'll say something in a moment when I get back. That'll do me on him anyway. You guys are wallopable.
No worries, mate. No worries. Jerry, we had our say on the guy on Wednesday night. You know, what's your thoughts on it, mate? I know this is a Celtic podcast, but it does affect us. You know, sometimes we're not looking over our shoulders at them. That's for sure. But is this their level now? You know, they claim to be a big club. They claim to be coming back. You know, all these things. Is this actually just their level now, Russell Martin?
It's a hard one because, let's be honest here, it's one of the ones. I don't want to be too critical because I've never seen any of these teams, really. So I don't know what... I know you guys have been relegated and stuff like that, so I don't really know much about them that way. And some managers, after maybe 2 or 3 clubs, find a club and it just it suits them. So, but what I will say is, it doesn't really matter if Rangers have Mourinho or him or Gerrard. It's up to us. The manager can do anything with Rangers if we keep doing what we're doing. We've got to, we can't keep doing the project players or whatever. We've got to be every Monday 2 or 3 quality players straight into our 11. Yeah, straight in quality. And we don't need to worry about Rangers as far as I'm concerned. I don't think we're laughing at the boy Russell Martin, or whatever he's Russell Hingham. We're not laughing at him. We're laughing at because Andy says it started with 100 million. The Rangers fans fall for the season booking hospitality and get it bought up straight away. And they fall for it, the 100 million in Mourinho. And then every week the season books were getting sold. It was dropped down to 80 million, 60. It's dropped right down to fucking 20 million in Russell Martin. And that's the season starting now soon. So, listen, I'm just looking after Celtic. As far as I'm concerned, you've got to be liqueur to your rivals and see what's happening, you know, to make sure. But if we just keep doing what we're doing it, I don't see any manager making any difference to Rangers because it's about us, it's about Celtic.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, as I say, the year before 10 in a row, I criticised the Celtic board then. I thought we could have told the season ticket holders we're going to use up 2 years' money and buy better players, quality players, at £7-8 million players, and fucking made sure we got to 10. But we never. So the board messed up there. So now, hopefully they've learned from that, Scott, and we keep moving. We can't stop now. So Rangers, no manager will make no difference if Celtic keep David Beard.
Yeah.
So well.
Aye. No, you're bang on, mate. You're absolutely bang on. Yes, we did have an infiltrator in the comments here, and I did ban him and get rid of him, ladies and gentlemen. But thanks for coming on to a Celtic podcast, because the Rangers ones are shite. So thank you very much. He's hearing about the Four Leaf Clover podcast here, lads. That's what it is. He just wants to join the party. So moving on, we done this. We gave the new signings that Brendan made last season a mid-card review, if you remember right, ladies and gentlemen. So what I've done is I've got them here again for the lads to have a look at. So if you take a wee look at the list there, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to pick out 3 of Brendan's signings each, lads, that have either stuck out for you or haven't really made the grade. So if you could have a wee look at that list, lads. And Andy, first up, mate, if you could give me 3 of those signings that Brendan has made last season that kind of stuck for you, mate.
Can't even see them. I'll need to look in the telly. I can't see them properly.
Right, so Engels, Jota, Adamida, Trusty, Bernardo, McCowan, Sinisalo, Kasper Schmeichel, Schlupp, and Alex Valle.
That you want 3?
Give me 3 that have either stood out for you or haven't made the grade, and why.
I think Luke McCown's been a good signing. No, it's pretty kind of slim pickings here when you think about it. I think obviously Jota coming in, he's got that injury, which is unfortunate for him. I think he was going to be coming on to a good game. Schmeichel is probably the top signing that he's made, I think, overall this season. He's been superb. Unfortunately, he's got that injury. Arne Engels, I think we spoke about it, saying that I think next season we're going to see the best of him. He needs a full pre-season with his team. That's an absolute shoe in there. So I would go with McCowan and Schmeichel, probably 2. That have worked out pretty well for Brendan.
Aye. Paddy, who's your 3? I know who one of them is, that's for sure, but what 3 have you picked out and for what reasons, mate?
I picked out 3, Scott. The three that I have picked out from that list will be, first one will be Arne Engels for me. You know, if I was given Arne a mark for the whole season, I would say he's a 7 out of 10. That's how I feel about him, because he started off like a house on fire, tailed off a wee bit in the middle of the season, but then I think he came back strong towards the end there. You know, and as Andy said, we need to bear with this guy. You know, he's a quality player, and I said it before and I'll say it again. Brendan Rodgers does not sanction an £11 million fee unless he's sure of the guy. So I firmly believe that, you know, you're going to see Arne Engels back next season again, and you're now seeing Arne Engels, who's a winner, and with a year of experience in the Champions League under his belt. I think Arne Engels will be a different kettle of fish altogether. We'll see the real Arne Engels next season, so I have very high hopes for Arne. The other 2, I'm going to go a bit negative in these 2, but for me, Austin Trusty, you know, big reputation. I spoke to 1 or 2 guys from Sheffield at the time when we signed him. Mixed reviews, have to say, from the guys who, you know, from being a solid big player to being a bit of a bomb scare. That was kind of the feedback that I was getting from some of the guys in Sheffield. And I have to say, with Austin Trusty, he's been very disappointing, Scott. You know, for me, the performance at Dundee that night, you know, when you could quite clearly see Brendan saying weak as piss, you know, he's defending at the far post, you know, so, you know, he's a big, strong lad, big fella. He's a good footballer. He's got good feet. He moves the ball quickly, but, You know, again, for a big guy of his size, similar to Christopher Julian, as Andy said, we've talked about this before. For a big guy of his size, he shouldn't be getting bullied by smaller guys in the SPFL. Just shouldn't be happening. He should be a big dominating bruiser of a centre half, but I'm not sure that he has that in him. But then again, when you see the performance from him that night against Atalanta, you know, he was absolutely outstanding and much more like the player that we thought we were getting. So need to see more from Austin Trusty. But again, his first season, you know, he's come from Sheffield United to Celtic. Massive difference in the expectation level from the supporters and stuff like that. So, you know, again, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt as well. And the last one for me is Jeffrey Schlupp. Again, you know, we were all very impressed with him at the start when he first came in. You know, and we just wondered, was he trying to cement a permanent deal? You know, because he really was impressive. Big unit of a player, comfortable on the ball, happy to take the ball in tight situations and play out from the back. But then he just seemed to fall off a cliff. I don't know what happened to him. But you know, it's getting to the stage now with Schlupp now where, do you know what, would we sign him now permanently? I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure. You've got Kieran Tierney. If you could keep wee Greg Taylor, but you know, if Greg Taylor leaves, would we be happy to go with Schlupp and Tierney as our two choices next year? I'm not so sure anymore. I would have my reservations about Schlupp. But those would be the three I would have a look at, Scott.
Good man. Kaiser, what three have you picked off that list, mate? Either good or bad or indifferent? What's your opinion on it, my man?
For me, Brendan's top signing has been Kasper Schmeichel, right? He's been absolutely outstanding, and I seen Kaiser's hentai hairy nipples coming in there and giving me grief because I gave him grief live for deflecting the ball into his own net. Come on, what do you expect? Do you want me to be smiling and dancing and going, you go, Kasper, you just scored the goal. Get a grip of yourself. But Big Kasper, by far, Big Kasper, right, is our top signing this season. He was absolutely marvellous at the start of the season. The records he was looking at breaking, the clean sheets he was keeping, just utter quality. Also, Big Arnott Engels, I'd like to throw my weight behind what Paddy and that was saying about him as well. Absolute Ferrari of a player. It's not his fault. He's not used to playing the volume of games that are played at Celtic under the conditions at Celtic. To bring him in as a 21-year-old for 11 million, and teams are coming in and scouting him right now and looking at him and looking to pay 20 million, and he's only 22. Imagine what he's got to be like when he's 24. Absolute cavalier, limousine of a player. Next year he will back him to really shine next year and really come on. Flash it up again, Andy, and I'll pick somebody different this time for the lads. I've got plenty to say about Schlupp, you know what I mean? But I've expressed that, and Trusty, and I try and keep away from the negativity, so I'm going to go with Luke McCown, chocolate bar, living the dream of every Celtic fan out there, brought into the club he loves, and he's found his feet. This season, it was really a time for him to come in. He could have come in and just fell apart, been overwhelmed with the pressure. But he's come in, he's played well, he's earned his chances, and he's done well with his chances. I hope Luke McCown kicks on next season and really does well. He's a player of absolute quality as well in that midfield. So I'm really keen to see what goes on with Celtic in the summer. I think it's going to be absolutely massive. I've got like 15 players listed that I'm kicking out the door, bringing in 11. I'm bringing in six between 11 million and 14 million, and 5 between 5 million and 8 million for squad depth and ability to change it from the bench. I think Engels is a watershed moment for Glasgow Celtic. For us to pay that kind of money on that kind of player, it is absolute watershed. And that's the signing that we'll all look back on and go, that's when it changed. Yeah. That's when Brendan forced the change. That's when it happened there. Absolutely fantastic. I hope he really kicks on.
I thought that said there, that comment says Sinisalo was a FUD. I couldn't see it right. I think I need to put my glasses on. I was like, what?
You need to get Michelle's glasses off.
Aye, I know, mate. It's, aye, sorry.
Jerry, the three players that you've picked, mate, and why? Good, bad, or indifferent, mate? Who are you picking off that list?
Yeah, I always say the number one, the signings is Schmeichel. Go to be. He's an 8 out of 10 for me this year. Great to have about the changing rooms. Everything he brings, professionalism, helping McGregor. McGregor always latches onto these guys, Joe Hart and all that, so that shows you the experience he brings. Listen, we take away the last 5 weeks of the season, the injury definitely didn't help. Didn't help him, especially somebody 38 years of age. It's not helped him much, but listen, he was having a great fine season up to then. So for me, Schmeichel been a brilliant signing, so it has been. And same as Paddy's best pal, Engels for me. He's a 7. Paddy's bang on with that, Scott, a 7. Because the potential's there. It's massive. I know there's a few clubs sniffing about, but no chance. No than who. I think everybody's expecting a big year for him next year. So there, and we've basically saying about player of the year and everything else. It wouldn't surprise me. The basics are all there and he does it well. But I think just a lot of fans get angry when we pay 11 million and stuff like that or whatever. We think he's going to take it in folk and stick it in the top corner and stuff like that. It's not that. It's not his game. It's the other stuff he brings, quality passing and stuff like that. So for me, he's been a good signing. And as soon as he gets used to here, I mean, you've got to forget, I know Scottish football's it's not the greatest of football, but it's played at a fast. It's played fast and people on top of you.
Yeah.
So the players are not the same quality, but they are fast and they're on top of you. So Engels needs to get used to that as well. So I think he'll come good well. And then my third one is a 50-50 one. A big Ida. It's just 50-50 with him. Because I just look at him and I feel, I know he's got 20 goals. I'm not taking that away from him, but let's be honest here. He could be sitting with 40 goals, 35 goals. If he wants to be a number 9 for Celtic Football Club, he needs to up his work rate. He needs to anticipate moves. He needs to make runs for nothing. Like Larson, Gary Lineker. These strikers, for me, Ida watches the ball, then he moves, the defender wins it. You've got to suspect the defender's going to miss it, get in there. So he's going to do fucking 80 runs for nothing, Scott. And one run is going to be well worth it. So for me, it's a massive season for him. I just like to see him up his fucking work rate, and plus try and start putting chances away maybe after 1 or 2, no 4 or 5 chances, but more patience. Getting that box, it's amazing actually the time you have got in that box if you actually just be a bit more patient and put it away. Sometimes you snap at things, you think there's folk there. So if he can be a bit more patient and put his work rate up, I think Ida could still turn out to be good. So I do, but the new is 50-50 with him. It could actually go either way for him. It could end up a cracking or just he's right on the 50-50 for me. So I'm hoping big things for the big man next year.
Aye, bang on. Great points. Great points, lads. Absolutely great points. I noticed Paul Elliott sorry.
I think Ida could become the player that we're looking for if he added a bit of aerial prowess to his game and starts putting away some of the corners. We get like 20-30 corners a game and we've not really got anybody putting them away. Like a big Houston Haran or something. Ida certainly has all the qualities. He's an absolute physical monster. He just lacks a little bit. And I'm going to say it right, big dick mentality. See that Georges Samaras swagger into any stadium and like, out the way, I play for Celtic. That's what you need to have. I was delighted to see him spewing in the taxi and then telling the driver, boom, clean up yourself. On you go. Big man. Sorry for interrupting, Scotty, my man.
Oh, no, you're absolutely fine, mate. You mentioned Yus Volharen there. I seen Paul Elliott get mentioned earlier as well. Alan Stubbs. We're looking for our number 4 for the 4-Leaf Clover podcast 11. And it's now that time, ladies and gentlemen.
Last man standing.
By the way, Scotty, if there's any Irish players in this, Paddy's got his sights on them. Don't worry.
Aye, I know he has, mate. I know he has. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen this segment, it is our last man standing section. Beautifully, we've got 4 panel members on this evening. So if it goes to a 2-2 decider, then you guys in the comments will get the deciding vote. I don't get a vote in this. There are no Lisbon Lions in the 10 players I'm about to show the panel. It's players that we've seen in our time. So we're obviously very, very young and didn't manage to get to see any of the Lions. So it's players in our time. I've got 10 centre halves for them for the number 4 position. We've already got Arthur Boric as our goalkeeper for the number 1 jersey. Our number 2 jersey is Danny McGrain. Our number 3 jersey is the beautiful man that is KT. And tonight, we, between us all, are going to pick our number 4 jersey. So, Andy, first up for you this evening, sir, I have got Enrico Annoni. Enrico Annoni is up against Gary Caldwell.
Oh,
Who are you picking and why?
Oh no, Annoni. Cult hero, I suppose, isn't he? Cult hero status. Wasn't the most gifted, let's be honest. It's not a major part of my kind of thing with centre halves is to be ball playing kind of players. I'm not too interested in that. I like to be defenders. I think he was a pretty good defender. Had obviously mistakes in him, but I think I'm going to go with the heat on this. Had really good passes on him. Actually, probably more forward thinking than Annoni. But he was, although I like my defenders to defend, he was comfortable on the ball and some heat on him, man. I'm pretty sure his seat would stop a plane coming out of that stadium. Massive feat. But it was a good player, obviously came for Hibs. I think in this instance, I'm going to go with Caldwell over Annoni.
Okay. Patrick, Gary Caldwell has 1 vote. Are you going with our Andy, or are you going with the Italian stallion himself?
it's a tough one, Scotty, too. Fortunate enough to have seen both players regularly. I love Annoni. I love his character. I love his intensity. You know, he was just a real hard man. And we were just lacking that kind of a player at that particular time. Just when you had Annoni on your side, you knew you were all right. But you know what? You have to look at the overall footballing ability, and you can't take away from big Gary Caldwell. He was a decent player, big, decent footballer, very, very underrated player. When we picked him up, I didn't really know an awful lot about him, but he was very good and comfortable on the ball, good at bringing the ball out. And as Andy said, like his diagonal passes, always remember the goal that Big Vinegar of Heslick scored against Rangers in the last kick of the ball. That came from a Caldwell pass. You know what I mean? So, just on this one for me, it's Gary Caldwell, Scott.
Okay. So, Kaiser, it's 2-0 to Gary Caldwell. Are you making it a clean sweep? Is he getting the jersey? Or are you going for Enrico Annoni? Can't hear you, mate. I think you're muted, pal.
Sorry, I enjoyed Gary Caldwell when he played. I always remember when we were playing against Man United and somebody rifled a shot and he put his face in front of the ball and Alex Ferguson singled him out and says, "That's the way you defend. You get your face in front of you, you get anything you need to put in front of you." So, I really liked Big Caldwell. Annoni, what a character Annoni was. Absolute legendary guy. Always thought about Annoni. He can't defend against shite players, but see when you put him on somebody of quality, he absolutely took them apart. So I'm going to buck a trend for the 2 lads there, right? And I'm going to go for Big Annoni. I'm going to Big Enrico, just because he's quality. I think I remember him shutting down Laudrup on the wing. He caused us so much pain for so many years. So I really appreciate what Big Annoni did there, and I'm going to go with him.
Okay, mate. It's quite 50-50, I'd say, Jerry, on the chat as well. So are you going to side with your Kaiser and leave it down to... You're going to let me get my calculator out here, or are you going for Gary Caldwell as well?
Yes, I'm looking at it in 2 different ways, because Enrique went and won everything, tackled everything, and just brings down and just wholehearted player, just a typical Italian, fiery, and just what they brought him and Ticano to Celtic was brilliant, because when they signed the training, just stepped up another level. These guys brought things that the Scottish players had never done before at training. So the Italians brought that. I mean, Ricky was just a great guy and great hangman. But then I look at Gary Caldwell and say, Gary Caldwell was smart.
Yeah.
No, I would say he's maybe a sweeper. So I don't think he attacked too much. I preferred Big McManus to go and attack the ball. And Caldwell would maybe step back to kind of guess it and scoop the boot. So for me, Caldwell, and what I liked about Caldwell was Caldwell's part of that Robson, Hartley, fucking Sean Rangers, what it was all about.
Yeah.
They put it back in place with Strachan. So for me, I'm going to go with Caldwell for that. I like Caldwell because he was a smart and all. He didn't just jump in and he used his seat more. He's quite intelligent for centre half. Wasn't he stupid as Maestrom, you know? He's quite
Some
smart.
he had, wasn't it?
Aye. As I say, I'll go with Caldwell, mate.
You've got to use your assets. You've got to use your assets when you've got them. So Gary Caldwell, it's 3-1 on the panel, and Gary Caldwell at the minute has the number 4 jersey. Will he go on a Chris Morris or a Mark Reid run? Will he keep it for sort of 5 or 6? By the way, I got a text off Mark the day he watched the podcast and he loved it, by the way. I told him that there will be Mark Reid Celtic supporters clubs opening up all over the world after that last podcast. He was on fire, so he was. So, Andy, Gary Caldwell is now up against a guy that he played beside quite often, Stephen McManus. Who are you picking and why?
Again, a half-decent player. You know, I had these limitations. Obviously played in the same team together. Former Celtic captain and all. I think that's a tight one for me between the two. But I'll go with McManus on this one over Caldwell. Only just.
Okay, mate. Patrick?
A good partnership they were. Have to say, as Jerry said, they had, you know, Big Mick would have been the one who was going and attacking the ball and bullying the centre forward, and Caldwell was the ball player at the back. But you know, I'm going to go with Andy on this one and go for Stephen McManus just for his sheer commitment. Big man was an absolute warrior for us. You know, you think back to the 2 goals against Hearts at Tynecastle when we snatched the victory in the last kick of the ball. You know, just these. You know, he was an inspirational character, kind of a Scott Brown character before Scott Brown type of thing. You know, just a real inspirational leader. You know, just played the game with his heart on his sleeve. Had his limitations like anybody else, but you certainly would never ever have questioned his commitment. And if you're going into the trenches, Big McManus is a guy you'd want with you. So for me, it's Stephen McManus.
Something monumental's happening here, Andy. I don't know if you've noticed. It's never happened before on this podcast. Somebody's copying your answers. Your Patrick there is looking at your shoulder, mate, and he's copying your answers. Kaiser, it's 2-0 to Big Mick McManus. Are you with the guys, or are you going for the Heat?
Yeah, I'm going for the Heat. Jerry explained it there. Usually the player who's better in calibre will drop back and let McManus go and challenge every ball. Of course, McManus was absolutely outstanding for us, and the boys are right. He bled green blood. It was running through his veins. It coursed through his veins. Utterly committed, former captain. So it's really hard, but I'm going to stick with a big Heat. I'm going to go with Caldwell. I think he was a more intelligent player and played out better, just like Jerry had alluded to. And watch Jerry feed me to the dogs here and be like, not McManus. No.
Jerry's got a wee habit of changing his mind anyway, guys. As you're about to see. Jerry, Mick McManus or the Heat?
Yeah, we can assist him in playing here. We can have playing 2 hard centre halves, and we're playing a kind of sweepery centre half. You know, that's a kind of. I like my sweepers. I think I would bring back sweepers in football. We wouldn't give as many goals away in Europe if we had somebody sweeping behind. Know what I mean? So you double centre halves, eventually go for the same ball and leave big gaps. So the sweeper seems to be he's vanished now, the sweepers. So, right, let's get back to where we are. So for me, McManus exactly brilliant player, attacking player, and he was a threat in the other box as well. Big McManus. Yep. That was the thing he brought and all. So he was a threat to the other box. When Celtic didn't have much. Sometimes centre halves we don't get that much threat in other boxes. Big warrior, led the team and all, but you know what? I'm going to stick with Caldwell. I'll stick with Caldwell for. Aye, see if Caldwell had a bit more pace, he would have been. He's been a right good player. I'm going to stick with Caldwell.
Okay. So it is a tie on the panel. 2 for Mick McManus and 2 for Gary Caldwell. But in the chat, it is very unanimous. And it is Mick McManus.
Is it? Aye.
Mick McManus keeps the jersey. So thanks for that in the comments. You guys had the deciding vote. So now Mick McManus is, Andy called it earlier. We're looking for the Irish guys to come along, and we've found one for our Paddy to dismiss. It is another Mick McCarthy. Mick McCarthy or Mick McManus. The battle of the Micks. Andy, who are you going for and why?
Quite simple. McCarthy. Aye. I'm sorry, but to pips him here. He was a hard man. He was a real old school hard man. All you had to do was look at his nose and the shape of it. You know, that tells a lot about somebody that absolutely doesn't care where they put their heat and stuff like that. I thought he was a great player for Celtic and a really kind of monumental season for us as well. Obviously different kind of eras. So I suppose the younger ones are looking more at McManus more than McCarthy. But he was instrumental in a successful Celtic side. Big Mick, Roy Keane's best pal.
Yeah,
absolutely no love lost between they two. Obviously Mick McCarthy being at Celtic a lot sooner, a lot earlier than Roy Keane was, and a lot longer as well. A guy that loved the club as well, you know, and the fans loved him. I know, total commitment and. It was a great defender. So for me, it's McCarthy that takes that jersey.
Okay, mate. 1-0 to Mick McCarthy. The battle of the Micks, Paddy. Are you sticking with your Irishman this week, or are you going for Mick McManus?
I'm just about to redeem myself on the boat again, Scott. So going for Big Mick. Big Mick McCarthy. One of the hardest, most physical players I think I've ever seen in a Celtic shirt, without a shadow of a doubt. Big, strong, physical player. Yeah. Born in Barnsley, son of a coal miner. Just with such a reputation. Came from Manchester City. This guy just had it for everybody. I think it was Paul Maguire there in the comments said we could do a Big McCarthy at the minute. Yeah, absolutely. If we had McCarthy and Cameron Carter-Vickers as our centre half pair, we wouldn't be in too much trouble. So for me, it's an easy one. Stephen McManus, you know, definitely big physical player too, but nothing on Big Mick McCarthy. You just asked Tosh McKinley. Yeah, bang on, mate. So again, Kaiser, 2-0 to Mick McCarthy. Are you sticking with McManus, or are you going for Mick McCarthy, mate?
Yeah, I'm going to go for McCarthy as well. Absolute powerhouse of a player. Would run through brick walls all day long. Kind of guy who you'd cross a body full of bricks and he'd still go up for the head. That's what it's all about. Just lived and breathed it. Absolute. Be a different generation of legends. Sonny a coal miner, just raised a different way, and it's just nowhere. It just made a tougher stuff like old bootleather. Yeah, like they say, samurai swords are they tickled into shape. They're pounded with hammers and forged in fire. So you can't make a samurai sword with a feather, and you can't make a player like Big Mick McCarthy by massaging his ego. That's for sure. Harps back to a bygone age. But I know Big McManus probably in the modern game would last a bit longer than Big Mick McCarthy. He'd probably be on the pitch for about 5 seconds and run right through somebody and be right there. But yeah, I'm still going to go with Big Mick McCarthy. Absolute powerhouse.
Okay, mate. So, Jerry, the number 4 jersey has been ripped off Mick McManus. Big McCarthy has it, but we still want your opinion, mate. Who are you picking and why?
Easy one for me, Big Mick McCarthy. By the way, it's Davy Hayes' last signing. Davy Hayes get the sack straight after signing them for the 88 season. For Big Billy to come in and lead us to one of the best seasons ever for me growing up anyway. Mm-hmm. All these guys are heroes of mine. They're all heroes, but these centenary boys are right up there. Listen, what I like about Big Mick McCarthy is, and what I don't see now in football is we're all talking about bringing him back. is he fucking moaned. He moaned at everybody else to get them going as well. Some players need that. You don't see anybody moaning now as much when you go and watch your football. So for me, brilliant there, a winner, moaned, go everybody going. It's no brainer. Mick McCarthy for me, mate.
Okay. So, big Mick McCarthy has ripped the jersey off Mick McManus, and he's up against a player who was a bit Marmite with the fans as well, pretty much in the mould of Austin Trusty. We've spoke about before on the podcast. Mick McCarthy is up against Christopher Jullien. Andy.
What a contrast between two players in the same position, mate. It's a no contest for me. There's absolutely no way that Jullien is taking the jersey off of McCarthy. I've said that before. He's a big unit, a big boy, but just didn't have the balls or the fortitude to really. It was a shite bag, basically. It was definitely too weak-minded. And it could have been so much better. He did weigh in with his goals now and again, and it just there's no comparison between the players at all. As a defender, you need some kind of solid mentality, and he didn't have it. He was too weak, as far as I'm concerned. So it's a no-brainer. It's McCarthy all day long.
Okay, mate. Few comments in there for Jullien, Paddy. He's getting called the modern day defender. Big Mick was obviously old school. Who are you picking, mate, and why?
Yeah, he might be old school, Scotty, but I like my defenders. I'm like Jerry. I like my defenders to defend. Jullien probably maybe a bit more easy on the eye in terms of his footballing ability, but again, we mentioned earlier on, Brendan saying weak as piss when it comes to Austin Trusty, and that's what Jullien was, just weak as piss. Pure and simple. For a big guy of his size, he was bullied by, I can remember the Kilmarnock centre forward bullying him on more than one occasion, leading to him having to give away a penalty and stuff. For a guy of his size and for a guy of his ability, it was he just didn't have it. For me, just as Andy said, he didn't seem to have the desire. And certainly didn't have the commitment. Always be remembered for the goal he scored against Rangers in the League Cup final. Obviously, gave us a great day, but it's a no-brainer for me. Mick McCarthy all day long on this one.
Okay. Kaiser, 2-0 to Big Mick McCarthy again. Are you keeping the trend going?
Yeah, I'm sticking with Big Mick. I'll always remember Jullien's knee slide at Hampden, one of the best knee slides I've ever seen in my life, but I think that's the best thing he done in a Celtic shirt. Other than that, yeah, he was afraid of his own shadow, wasn't he? Sometimes you need to just put yourself in about there. Some would say a pretty boy and didn't like to get hurted. So I've seen someone in the comments saying that we grew up playing in red ash pitches, getting walloped with mitre mould masters, and then you get the mitre where the patches would come off and it would be waterlogged, and you got up and you headed it and you got that dizzy spell that you get punched off Ivan Drago. But if he dies, he dies. Stick with Big Mick. You need to go for it.
Excellent, Jerry. It's 3-0 to Big Mick. He's still got the jersey, mate, but are you making a case for Jullien?
No. No. Listen, like me saying, man, 6'5", know what I mean? But fucking come on, like me saying, some strikers, they just don't like guys on top of them. They want all the space in the world. He's a confident big boy, don't get me wrong, but can pass the ball well and come out for the defence well, but he didn't want the offside. If you don't want the offside, there's no guys playing in Scottish football. That's a silly move on his part. But nah, it's Mick McCarthy all day long, so it is, Scott.
Okay. So, Big Mick McCarthy still has the jersey. He's on a Chris Morris and a Mark Reid run here by the looks of things. But will he keep the jersey? He's up against a man who has that jersey just now. Cameron Carter-Vickers or Mick McCarthy. Let's get this one deciphered then, lads. Andy?
I'll make it short and sweet. It's CCV for me. I love Big Mick. I obviously I've kind of said, you know, he's a real hard man, old school centre half. CCV, excuse me. CCV is probably one of the finest signings we have made in the last 5-6 years, maybe longer than that, you know, probably since Van Dijk, and Van Dijk was a great player as well as a great defender. But CCV, he's not the quickest, but his football brain's very intelligent when it comes to his positional sense and stuff like that. And he's hard. He's a hard player. He is committed. He's everything that Julian wasn't, you know, absolutely committed. I mean, that game against the Rotten Mob, when it was 4-1 and he comes out on top, it's like, that says it all, doesn't it? You know, it's the guy's been brilliant for us. The only thing that disappoints me with CCV is he's, unfortunately, when it's came to kind of big games, especially Champions League, he's had injuries he's missed out when we've really needed him. But overall, I think CCV has been and will continue to be a top-class player at Celtic. Really, really important at this stage in our history, I think. So for that reason, I'm going to give a jersey to CCV. Sorry, Mick McCarthy, but Carter Vickers gets it.
I'm quite surprised, Paddy, there isn't actually one vote in the comments for Mick McCarthy when I've put this up. I thought this was going to be a really tight one, but the people in the comments have, you know, sided with CCV. Are you still copying Andy's answers, mate? Are you going for CCV, or are you sticking with Big Mick?
You have to recognise the quality and the class here, and for me, it's a no-brainer with this one. Cameron Carter-Vickers. We talked about Ange Postecoglou earlier on. That's one of the gems that he left us with. One of his first signings. You know, and from the day and hour that he walked into the building, you could just see his quality. The big guy is just so solid, such a solid unit. You know, we say practically every time we're at the game, you know, when he gets his feet planted in the ground, there's nobody moving him. He just doesn't move. He's an absolute tank. And he's the rock on which our defence is built at the minute, Scott. He's absolutely the rock. Big Mick was fortunate to have Derek White alongside him, Big Roy Aitken, you know, one or two other guys as well. So we weren't relying totally on Big Mick McCarthy, but we do rely on Cameron Carter-Vickers. So much so that we're still, you know, we're talking now, and when we get on to one of our next shows, we will probably look at some of the players that we'll sign this summer, or we hope to sign. And one of those will be a partner for Cameron Carter-Vickers. That's how highly we rate him, because he's such an important player, big game player. As Andy said, you know, that he's had a few injuries and stuff like that, but that's just a sign of his commitment. You know, the guy has picked up injuries, and you know, you heard Brendan there saying recently that he had to leave him out of a game. He was getting in pain-killing injections to allow him to play. You know, so for me, just from the very first day he started for us, you could just see his quality. An American international, he's loved by Americans. You know, I thought he maybe would have formed a better partnership with Austin Trusty, but it just hasn't worked so far. But for me, on this choice between Mick McCarthy and Cameron Carter-Vickers, it has to be Cameron Carter-Vickers all day long.
Okay, so yet again, Kaiser, it is 2-0 to Big Cameron Carter-Vickers. Are you sticking with the lads, or are you going for Big Mick?
I just can't see past CCV. Such a fantastic player, and also one of those players that jumped around clubs, and when he came to Celtic, he really found a home and became settled and really improved at Celtic as well. The lads have covered it perfectly. Getting pain-killing injections in the modern game to play. Players making the kind of money players make nowadays, they don't risk their body for nothing. But big CCV is willing to risk it for us and run through the pain barrier. Absolutely fantastic player, quality. Best thing we can do this summer is find somebody to partner him. If we can't take him to the States and clone him, find a ball playing partner for him, so much isn't relying on him. Yep. They play the ball out all the time. Big Trusty just passes the ball to CCV and just leaves him with the ball all the time. And like, you're meant to be the big left-footed, amazing player, Trusty. The one thing I hear people say about Trusty is, he's got fantastic recovery pace. Well, I'm for a generation, you don't need recovery pace if you don't make mistakes.
Exactly.
And that's what big CCV doesn't need recovery pace. He's got football and intelligence and the ring craft to not make mistakes. So CCV all the way for me. Sorry, Big Mick, ripping the shirt off you. No disrespect. Don't treat me like you treat Roy Keane, but it's CCV all the way.
No, you're bang on, mate, with the football brain there. Jerry, yourself, mate, what are you thinking? Andy's moved himself because Paddy
That's a good idea. You rotate.
keeps nicking his patter, I think, or Paddy's stealing his answers. So he's moved you up, mate.
Are we still doing last man standing or blankety blank? That's it all been.
3-0, mate, to Cameron Carter-Vickers. Are you with the guys?
Aye, boy. CCV's one of the best centre halves I've seen Celtic Park in years. Pure winner. I know he's wee bit maybe the pace, wee touch, but listen, he reads the game well. He can throws his cell at everything. He's just, this is what I'm talking about. Ange and guys like him. Ange wouldn't have been doing that far in the league at Tottenham. He wouldn't have. Guys are willing to put themselves more for the club before themselves.
Yeah,
That's what he's up there with, the big man. 27-year-old, and I'm thinking, I hope I'd hate to think that Celtic defensive football, Scott. That's a big worry for me this year. Hopefully, and that's what talk about Celtic winning the Rangers. No, we get somebody in beside them, so we do, and keep the ball rolling. But for me, the big man's he's up there with Big Dyke, Van Hagmenti. So for me, brilliant player, brilliant signing.
Van Hagmenti.
Yeah, Big Van Dyke, that's what I call him.
So Cameron Carter-Vickers keeps the old jersey, so he does. And now he's up against an opponent. I heard them mentioned earlier. Somebody mentioned Rocky Balboa. Somebody mentioned Drago. And it is big Dolph Lundgren himself.
Oh,
Cameron Carter-Vickers is up, ladies and gentlemen, against Johan Mjällby. Jerry.
Andy, you're a fly man. Jumping down there at the right.
I was just thinking, switching it about it, kind of
Oh,
make it a wee bit better.
Oh, God. This is see, I mean, as soon as it comes to a right hard one, Andy, you bolted. You're a fly man.
Wait till next man, I'm getting in the house.
You know what? Malby was different class. Brilliant player. Brilliant. The only thing is, when Malby was an out-and-out centre half, because a big man could play centre midfield and all, and play everywhere, you know.
So could Roy Aitken.
Malby, and you still see Malby and Uman. The guy's still solid, isn't he?
Yeah.
Man, what a signing for Celtic. But I'm going to stick with CCV on this one, because I can maybe get Malby. I can maybe get Big Malby into midfield later on the weeks go on. You never know. But no, CCV for me just nips it out of the big man. But that's the closest one yet for me.
Okay.
That's a cracker. That's a
Paddy.
cracker spot.
Who are you picking and why?
Again, that's a very, very tough one, Scott. Love both of the players. Again, Mjällby very, very similar in terms of his commitment to Mick McCarthy. The big man was, he would have put his head in where the feet were flying. Such a committed, big physical player. It's a tough one, Scott. This is really, really tough. Again, I'm gonna go for Cameron Carter-Vickers on this one purely because of his importance to the team. Big Mjällby was fantastic, but I don't think we relied on Mjällby the way we do on Cameron Carter-Vickers. Mjällby was part of that Martin O'Neill team, and we were very fortunate to have Stan Varga, one or two other guys there, the big defenders, Jos Valharen, so he wasn't alone there. He was very much part of the squad, but we are very reliant on Cameron Carter-Vickers. And as Jerry said, Ange Postecoglou again, look at the player that he identified there, going nowhere. His career was going nowhere with Spurs. I actually saw him playing for Spurs, and they must have been playing somebody in the Dutch 7th tier in a friendly a few weeks earlier, and he didn't even look outstanding. But when he came to us, and when you think of how much of a important cog in the wheel he is for us at the minute, both under Ange Postecoglou and still under Brendan Rodgers, so it's a very, very tough one. two cracking players, two of the best defenders we've ever signed, without a shadow of a doubt. Mialby probably maybe a wee bit more old school, but for me, I'm just going to stick with Cameron Carter-Vickers on this one.
Okay, mate. So, Kaiser, 2-0 to Cameron Carter-Vickers. Are you going to pull it back for Big Drago?
Yeah, I'm going to betray the fridge. I'm going to go for Big Ivan Drago. If he dies, he dies. Absolutely fantastic. And a squad of such icons to stand out. My best friend actually had a cat, and it was called Mialby, and I absolutely loved it. You know what I mean? So for a player to stand out in a squad of icons like Henrik Larsson and Stan Varga, such amazing players we had at the time, we may see the highlights again at the end of this summer, lads. But yeah, for me, I'm going to make it hard on Andy as well. I'm going to go for Big Dolph Lundgren. I'm going to make it hard. Let Andy make the tough decision. No, he's trying to run away to the bottom of the pack.
Aye, good man,
Good
Kaiser.
luck, Andy.
Get him working. Get him working. Andy, it's 2-1. Are you going to put a spanner in the works and vote for Big Mialby, or are you sticking with Cameron Carter-Vickers?
Again, just touching on what the other guy said, it is a very, very tight decision. We were lucky enough to go to react some night with Big Mialby, get a picture with him and meet him, and just I think I wanted to shag him myself, to be honest with you, standing beside him, you know. But his football ability, he was a solid player. We were absolutely solid at that period.
Yeah.
Seeing you think back, actually, you can look in the negatives we've had down our team over the years, talking about defenders and with a bomb scare, this and that. But you actually look at the players, the cracking players we had. He's one of them. He's up there.
Yeah,
a really iconic period at the club, you know, at that time. And then obviously you look at CCV, the modern day kind of that type of player. Hard, committed, so pivotal in the team. It's a hard one, mate. I'm going to go with Kaiser. I'm going to go with Mialby here. I loved him. I thought I loved him as a player, and he still speaks very well about Celtic as well. You know, it was obviously a really important part of his career, and the ups and downs that he had at our club and all. But ultimately, he was a very successful player and really important part of our defensive structure at that time. We were all big units and capable. I'm going to go with Big Mialby here.
Do you know what? Even in the comments, it has been very tight. I have been keeping an eye on it. I did think this one would go to a tiebreaker, and it certainly has. But the slight winner, ladies and gentlemen, is Johan Mialby.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. The two of them. How many mistakes did him and CCV make? How many mistakes they made? Hardly any. That's the difference. Every centre off, you didn't keep playing football all the time. You don't make mistakes if you just do the simple stuff and win your ball. And sometimes it frustrates you when you see them try to play football.
Yeah. So next up for Johan Mialby. Imagine this guy beside him in our defence right now as well. He's up against another cult hero at Celtic. He's up against Johan Mialby or Bobo Balde. Who are you giving that number 4 jersey to, Jerry?
Fucking hell, man. I've actually got better things to do myself on a Friday night and put myself through stress, Scott.
I've got to make these up, mate.
The Friday night's where you finish your work and you enjoy your farter, you have a good night. Friday feeling, this is just getting stressful, man. Jesus Christ, man. Big Baldy was brilliant, man, but he could make a mistake and couldn't pass a 2-yard pass. Sometimes Big Bobo was better when he was under pressure because he would get time. He seemed to fucking. But I'll tell you one thing, I'm feared to no pick him in case he. Oh man, but you're talking about like the two different types of centre halves, aren't they? You know what I mean? Bobo was just like an old-fashioned centre half. No, But we're chatting, oh, jeez, well, how did I have to? Andy, you're a fly, man. You was going to get harder and harder and jump ship.
Still got to make a decision, though. It doesn't matter where you are.
Ken, that's a hard one. You know what?
I thought it was doing you a favour.
Ken, just two total different types of players, know what I mean? But I'm going to stick with Malby. I'm going to stick with him. Do you know what I mean? Because I'll stick with him.
Okay.
I'll go with Malby. That's hard, but two different types of players. Big Bobo was brilliant. Suited for Scottish football, by the way. But he just did that wee mistake in him. And I'm with Andy. I like out of the whole team, I just like my centre halves to do their job. I don't want them playing football at all. I don't mind the backs, the midfield, for any day bar my centre halves. So for me, I think Bobo would make more mistakes there. So I'm going to stick with Malby. But Jesus Christ.
You better go and check your front door, Jerry, because I think Big Bobo's at the door. Paddy, who are you picking out of the two, mate? A toughie again?
It is, Scott. It's very tough. But I love both of these guys. That these guys are both what you would want in a centre half. The ability to basically knock the centre forward all over the place, physical with him, let him know he's in a game. Make sure that if you want to take that ball to your feet, you're going to get thundered from behind. Two solid big players, but I'm going to do the same as Jerry. I'm going to stick with Big Johan Mjällby based on the fact that Big Bobo, the only thing that let Bobo down was his discipline. He would have left you with 10 men. And he did it sometimes to our cost. Exactly what Plunge is saying there. I don't like to say that he cost us the final because I don't really know that he did. I think it was more the heat than anything else. But that just sums him up. Like he would have did stupid things. I remember him being sent off one day. We were 4-0 up against somebody. He's just his discipline. And that's we were there at that time. He was in the team with Mjällby, with Valharan, Ramon Vega, Stan Varga, and these guys were all very, very disciplined players. Big Bobo was just I don't know who the Rangers player was. I can't remember who the Rangers player was. I think about that guy Bojan. Was it Bojan you called him? The young lad they brought up on loan. And I remember him reading in an interview that I was at the game and he put the ball past Big Baldy and Big Baldy just hit him. And he said in the article, he said he don't know what he says. I think he hit me with his shoulder, his elbow, and his thigh at the same time. And he said when he got up, he was absolutely seeing stars. He hadn't a clue where he was, So that was just Bobo. You know what I mean? He just when he hit you, you stayed hit. You know what I mean? Just one of those big, solid, physical players. And when you listen to Stan Petrov too, he wasn't scared to take it out on his own teammates in the changing room. Stan Petrov said he had him in the Celtic Park changing rooms by the throat, and only for Chris Sutton and people pulling them off. He was fuming at something that had gone on in the game. So big physical player, but for me, Big Mjällby was a more rounded, more disciplined player. So I'm sticking with Big Mjällby.
Okay, so yet again, guys, it's 2-0. You're facing a dilemma, my good man. Are you going for Big Bobo or are you sticking with Big Dolph Lundgren?
Absolutely loved Big Bobo Baldy, right? Absolutely loved him. I remember going on the stadium tour and they took us around the changing facilities just a couple of years ago there, and they had one of the urinals cordoned off. And I says to the guy giving the tour, that's because Big Bobo used that one, and he had that third leg slapped in there and broke a urinal. But Big Bobo was absolutely outstanding. The song "No That Bobo's Gonna Get You," the terror he invoked in teams and players. I always wished we'd played him as like a defensive midfielder where it didn't really matter so much his discipline. And I remember Martin O'Neill saying, "What are you doing trying to play football? You don't play football." So for all the reasons, I love Big Bobo, but it's still Mjällby for me. I just think he was just a better calibre, a defender than Big Bobo. But as far as a powerhouse goes and players that run through walls and that, yeah, Big Bobo was outstanding. But Mjällby for me all the way.
Okay, mate. So Andy, Big Dolph Lundgren still has the number 4 jersey, but we want your opinion anyway, my man. Would you be picking Johan Mjällby or would you be picking Big Bobo as your number 4?
I wish I stayed where I was in that position because Paddy said a lot of the things I was going to say. You know, he's talking about that Big Bobo wasn't scared of having a go at his own teammates, and his own teammates were shit scared of him. You know, so you can imagine what the opposition players were feeling. The only thing with Big Bobo was, I mean, he didn't even look like a football player. He looked like some kind of bouncer or a rugby player, more a build than a football player. But at times he was unbeatable because he just put his body in the way. I think maybe decision making at times when it came to defending was questionable.
Yeah.
You know, when he kind of went for challenges and he was never going to get there and you're getting sent off and stuff like that. And I think it looks worse when you're that size and you make a challenge on an average size person that you almost feel sorry for the person because it's like it's getting hit with a truck. Bobo had now and again he would go on a wee mazy run. I don't know if you remember, there's quite a few occasions he would just run with the ball and like dribble by players and like, where did that come from? And then ultimately he would lose it, you know, and then obviously he's out of position, then other people having to cover for him. But there is sending halves you can look at. I think overall Mjällby as a player, as a defender, was more gifted as a football player. But again, with the solid reliability of a defender, and that's why I'm going to go with Mjällby. And as much as I love Bobo and everybody else does, I'm going to go with Mjällby on this.
Okay, so big Johan Mjällby keeps the number 4 jersey. He's got 2 more opponents to get by to keep that jersey. And Jerry, he's up against a guy that me and you know very, very well. He's from the same town as yourself. Feed the Bear.
Yes.
Roy Aitken or Johan Mjällby?
Roy Aitken, well, obviously was at our school, another fine football player at our school. Listen, Big Roy, what a man, a leader, a Celtic. Listen, Graham Souness said when Celtic, Rangers signed Mo Johnston, Scott, that hang with Celtic for years. I think Celtic letting Roy Aitken go to Newcastle was the start of your downfall in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Whenever that guy, the leadership, the character, for me that was a big loss for Celtic. Roy Aitken got to Newcastle. So for me it's no-brainer. Loved the big man. He played midfield, guys. Played midfield as well.
Yeah.
But for me, Roy Aitken wins this for me. Not just because he went to my school, but Big Roy was inspirational in that character for Celtic. I mean, Roy gets it for me.
Okay, that's fine, mate. So 1-0 to Roy Aitken, Paddy. Are you sticking with your pal Jerry there, or are you sticking with big Dolph Lundgren?
Oh, 2 players I absolutely loved, Scott. Both of them just born winners. Desire, commitment, intensity, would bleed for the shirt. Big Roy, the absolute influence on the team. You know, the influence that he had over that team at the time. And, you know, Big Roy in the centenary year, you know, I mean, even those other finals, you know, the Dundee United one in 85, the 100th Scottish Cup final, rampaging down the wing. When Dundee United were settling for extra time, Big Roy was having none of it. You know what I mean? Just an absolute, just legend, a Celtic legend. You know, Big Mjällby will go on to be a Celtic legend when we write the history of the club. There's no doubt about that, because he was a very, very important player in Martin O'Neill's team when we grabbed the initiative again in the early 2000s. But I just think, as Jerry said, you know, when you let players like Roy Aitken out of the building, you know, you're not only losing the player, you're losing that influence, and you're losing that Celtic man. You know, a Celtic man through and through. You know, just such a committed player. You know, and we were all, you know, feed the bear. How many times did we hear that whenever Celtic were struggling in the game? You know what I mean? Just the Celtic fans knew who to get riled. You know, and Big Roy was there, and you know the number of games that when I see Roy Aitken playing, and you know just the way he's drive and his determination. You know, Roy Aitken epitomised the Celtic spirit for me. He absolutely epitomised it. Defeat wasn't an option. You know, we're not losing this, guys. He picked that team up, you know, by the scruff of the neck. You know, when he was in that team with players like Tommy Burns and Paul McStay and Davy Provan, Frank McGarvey. You know, what a squad we had at that time. You know, I'd say players who just wouldn't lie down and just wouldn't accept defeat, kept going, late goals. You know, and it was a lot of it was driven on by Big Roy. So for me on this one, it's going to be Big Roy Aiken.
Okay. So yet again, Kaiser 2-0. You're facing it. Are you going to flip it and get big Dolph Lundgren back in that jersey, or are you giving it to our Roy?
Well, I had this one up just earlier on. You see, I had the privilege to go and meet Big Roy Aiken, Packy Boner on the other side, and Peter the Pointer's behind me there. He's pointing at the back of my head. I can't get where he is there. So I got to meet the three players, and for me, Feed the Bear, just utterly a different calibre. He's the way he just bled for the club. He ran through walls. I just can't see past Big Roy Aiken, you know, and that's the way I'm going to go. So I'm sorry it sort of makes it an irrelevant decision, but that's the way it's going to be here, lads. I just need to meet one of my heroes and get and have a conversation with him. Utterly outstanding. Thanks to Axon for that as well, for putting on the events like Andy mentioned earlier on.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I wish they would do more. I keep pressuring them in the chats and telling them to approach the club. You're like getting 2,000 views. Hopefully you guys will do it as well in the full leaf. Approach the club, ask the questions, get the interviews with the people who want to talk to, get the footballing doctor on. Let's see what's going on. That being said, Feed the Bear all the way.
Okay, so Andy, Roy Aiken has ripped the jersey off Big Ivan Drago. What's your opinion on it, mate? Who are you picking and why?
A bit of a hero growing up, you know, a young guy, somebody you really look up to, the captain, the team you support. Round about that period was so important. I just seen the comments, they kind of stole my thunder. I was going to mention that. With the 85 Cup final, that cross for Frank McGarvey's flying header, unforgettable scenes. And then obviously the 89 Cup final and stealing that throw-in, you know. Just magic times, but more than that, it's not just two moments, you know. There's so many moments with Roy Aiken, and I've seen in the comments as well, cracking comments on about, and it's great looking back. It's nostalgic. I'm going to go for Big Roy, and it's not just nostalgia. And there's certain parts of your life that people really resonate with you. He's one of the guys that's you know, at a time as a young guy growing up and supporting your team, and he's somebody that will always stand out to me. Somebody I've never met, actually. I'd love to meet Big Roy. And fingers crossed, maybe one day we can get him on for a chat. Would be absolutely superb. That I would love that. So I'm going to go with Roy Aiken. A solid unit, didn't mess about. And also in the comments, they're saying he dragged the team up the park as well. You've seen that in many occasions. And as much as I love me Albie, Big Roy gets a jersey here. A immense player for us. Just an absolute giant when it comes to his stature with Celtic.
Aye, bang on, lads. I love listening to that, by the way. Roy is a big hero in mine, obviously, being for the Free Tunes and that, and up there with Bobby Lennox, you know, he's such a fantastic guy and a fantastic player, fantastic captain. But he has one more person to go up against. Sorry, lads, I'm sorry.
Enjoy yourself, Jerry.
Change, Andy, change it in there. Change it in, man.
So Roy Aiken is up against, ladies and gentlemen, he's up against Paul Elliott. Roy Aiken is up against Paul Elliott. Mentioned quite a lot this evening in the chat. Kaiser, who are you going for and why?
What a tough one. I thought it was going to be Big Bug Joe as well. It was coming up, and I was like, that's how I was laughing, like, what are you going to do there? But hopefully he comes in a different time, a different section. I can shout it for the comments.
Number 5 jersey, maybe?
Paul Elliott for me, you know, I just such a fantastic player for us. I'm sorry to Big Feed the Bear. I did big it up, did say it, and absolute privilege to meet the big man, one of my heroes growing up, a true working class hero as well. But yeah, Paul Elliott for me just takes it. Thanks for sticking me in here, Andy. And you know what I mean? Everybody in the chat, I've seen comments in the chat saying the Full Leaf Clover, one of the absolute best podcasts on. Make sure you're sharing the content and liking the content. It helps the lads grow. And these lads bring this every week. The planning, the preparation, the perspiration, it all gets put in with these guys. Inviting me on here to cover Michelle is an absolute privilege. But by all means, she's got the starting jersey, and it'll be a long time before I rip that half her, and it'll probably have boobs in the front of it by the time I wear it. I don't think that'll be happening. So, yeah, Paul Elliott for me, lads, all the way.
Okay, pal. Patrick, Paul Elliott's got it for now, 1-0, but are you giving Big Roy the equaliser?
Yep, I'm sticking with Big Roy. No doubt in my mind at all. For me, it's one of the easier ones, to be honest. But don't get me wrong, Paul Elliott, fantastic player. You know, just wish we had him at a different era. He was an unbelievable signing for Celtic and an unbelievable player, world class. But just for the leadership and the inspiration that Big Roy was, Paul Elliott, you know, you can't compare, you know, the two of them for their overall contribution to the club. Big Paul should definitely have hung around a lot more than he did, and we weren't the greatest team at the time, Scotty. Paul Elliott played in a very poor Celtic lineup at the time. We were basically perennial losers to Rangers at that time. Obviously, if we'd had a few players like Big Paul Elliott, we might have improved things. But, you know, for me, as a young lad, 16, 17, growing up watching that team with, you know, as I said, Paul McStay, Danny McGrain, Big Roy Aitken, Tommy Burns, you know, these guys that's who Celtic were. That's who we were. You know, Paul Elliott and these guys came along later on and stuff. But for me, you know, Big Roy Aitken's in the brickwork at Celtic Park. So it's an easy one for me, Scotty, despite the fact that Big Paul Elliott was brilliant and I loved the big guy, but it's a no-brainer for me, Big Roy Aitken, all the way.
Okay, mate. So, Jerry, you've been moved positions and you've got a wee decider already. It's one each. Who are you picking and why?
Aye, Big Paul Elliott, 650 grand for Pisa. What a signing. What a signing. But we've seen that. We've seen what a player. He was class. Big man, so he did, but he struggled the first few while. Picked up a lot of bookings, and so as we talked about players getting adapting to the pace of Scottish football. It's no great quality, but it's the speed, and he's coming for Italy and playing against. So the big man struggled the first year, so he did, but the second year he got Player of the Year. But I mean, as soon as the London club came in for him, he was straight away. So. We're here, we're talking about a Celtic thing here, we're talking about a legend, and Big Elliott comes nowhere near Big Roy that way. Elliott's a great player, but a two-season man or whatever. Big Aitken would have stayed with Celtic all his life. So he would have. As Andy says, he's never met him, Andy. We were at school, we walked it to West Kilbride once every month to try and see him. We seen him a lot of times. He had a big house at the end of the back road for West Kilbride, you know. Up the Drossin back road or the country, and Big Roy's house, big cracking house then, so he did, big man, big gentleman, he was always at the Pineapple and all at the Chapel. But listen, we're talking about legends here, Celtic. Big Roy's, we all talked about 85, 89, 88 season. Aye, it's no brainer. Big Roy all day long.
Okay, mate. So, Andy, you have the deciding vote. It's now 2-1 to Roy Aitken. Are you taking this one to a tiebreaker, or are you sticking with Big Roy?
Elliott was a fantastic player. Real finesse at times as well. Gifted player, cracking defender. Again, didn't stay long enough for the club. Had these wee issues injury-wise as well. And I know, particularly you, Scott, you're a big fan of Paul Elliott. But for me, you know, you've got the longevity of Big Roy as well. He is a legend, and rightly so. Seen as a legend at Celtic, rightly so. And just, who mentioned that he went to Newcastle? Was it you, Paddy?
Jerry.
Was it?
Jerry.
Garrett.
Newcastle.
Sorry, Jerry. I think seeing him in that Newcastle tap, it was like I'm not comparing Big Roy to Larson, but it was like seeing Larson in that Barcelona tap didn't look right. You know, when Big Roy went to Newcastle, it just didn't look right. Somebody that spent so long at the club, former captain, it was just it was heartbreaking not to see him at Celtic. All right, everybody's got to kind of move on and things change, but for me, Big Roy keeps the jersey here, and Elliott was a fantastic player, but there's just so much more about Roy, you know, when it comes to being a Celtic player, Celtic captain. Aye, definitely Roy for me.
It was sad for Big Elliott to end it on Chelsea a couple of seasons, that Dean Saunders series, remember?
Yeah.
He ended up in court. He was one of the first players to go to court for a tackle. I think he lost everything through it, Big Elliott, because he lost his case. It's just a shame end to a guy who was absolutely outstanding, but they picked a rank. That's what top his time with Celtic. That wee bit longer and being that legend, and things could be different for him. So it was sad that life for him.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the panel have decided Big Roy Aitken gets the Four Leaf Clover podcast number 4 jersey. What a fantastic debate that was. Really, really, really enjoyed that. So that was
Last man standing.
So that's us, ladies and gentlemen. Roy Aitken signs off the show for us. That was absolutely fantastic. Kaiser, thank you so much for jumping in tonight. It was great having you back on, mate. Your patter was outstanding as ever.
If I can just cut you off for 2 seconds, right, Scotty? Legends. I was coming in to be part of the show with the guys. They accepted me like a brother. I loved it, absolutely loved it. I was diagnosed with cough syncope, so when I cough, I collapse. And I was collapsing off steam. I was having coughing fits and collapsing. Recently, I've been training, trying to get myself fitter, and my legs swole up, and I ended up in the hospital because I had a blood clot in my leg. So I'm riddled with blood thinners and all that now. And the guys bringing me on the show has just been an absolute rare light for my Friday night. Please show these guys your full support. Check out Paddy's Facebook group, get involved, and gear all, put it behind here. This is the kind of podcast that brings amazing segments, amazing games, a brilliant chat interaction. Having the chat interaction is just pinnacle. Really support this pod and push it as far as you can, legends. And that being said, hail legends, and thanks for having me. Scotty, continue on, brother.
Will do, my man. Thank you very much for that. Happy birthday to your old man, James, on Sunday.
Happy birthday,
James, your dad.
Patrick.
Happy birthday to you.
Paddy, thank you so much for joining us this evening as well, mate. And I hope your dad's continues as well, mate.
One more thing today before we go, mate.
Yeah, go for it, mate.
Right, let me play this.
Hello, me again. I'm listening to TalkSport there, right? And Alan Brazil, he can be funny, but he can actually be quite a nasty person as well. But he's talking about Russell Martin, right, which obviously is the biggest news in the football at the moment in the UK.
No, it isn't.
And he's saying, with that back four, they won't be able to play like that. And he said, Rangers haven't really got money, you like that. You're supposed to know that we've been taken over by the 49ers organisation, who are something like the 8th richest sports company in the world. And you're supposed to understand that this is a close season. The stadium, the transfer market opens on June the 16th. Or am I missing something here? Is he just in the wind up and got me, or does he just not understand that we've actually been taken over? We've got more money than Celtic available to us. You know, I don't get that, actually. It's kind of annoyed me a bit. I mean, this is supposed to be a guy that's a professional, but he doesn't understand that the chances of the players, that back four that we've got now being there next season, is next to zero. You know what I mean? Because our new recruitment staff, they'll have people lined up already, and it's the goalkeeper that's the number one for me anyway. 2 centre-halves in the left and right back positions. Have I got something wrong here, or is anyone else listening to it? Because I'm listening to it and thinking, am I actually I'm actually hearing what they're saying, that Brazil and Gabby, I can't say his second name, and I think Gabby's good. They're not be able to win like that. You know, they'll not be able to say they're too far. The defence isn't good. Anyway, I'm going for a shower before I go to the station. I'm off to Bangkok. Cheers.
One there in Bangkok. Aye, Chris, has got it bang on.
Holy fuck, man. That's...
Unbelievable. Well, they're unbelievable. That was absolutely hilarious. Cactus. Ladies and gentlemen, that's us. We'll be back on Wednesday night. Hopefully, our Michelle as well. And thank you so much. We'll pick our number 5 jersey to go alongside Roy Aiken on Wednesday night. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us.
Before we go, happy anniversary to my wife. It's her anniversary tomorrow, so I'm just glad I remembered.
Oh, happy anniversary, Andy.
Happy anniversary,
Cheers.
both.
Happy anniversary.
Cheers, guys. Good night.
Someday you will find